Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Celluloid History Life is a Mystery channel. My name is Dan Rowlands. I hope everyone's had a good weekend. Yes, welcome back to the channel. A good weekend for England football, wasn't it? And I think they'd actually already qualified, hadn't they? But yeah, Harry Kane seemed to be in pretty good form. Yes, big debates today between the production team and the stylist. Sorry. Not only mild controversy regarding whether checks go with stripes. Also, all sorts of involved philosophical and slightly contentious conversations, mild arguments, whatever you'd like to call them, regarding the wearing of two primary colours, red and blue. Philosophical tangents, including along the lines of as a social democratic political and cultural commentator, it was suitable to wear a strong red colour with a fairly predominantly light blue colour. Although I think actually there's a bit of navy in there, isn't there? I think, but it was sort of deemed that the old symbolism of Tory blue and left Labour red was not going to be too much of an issue, because the red was predominantly a more pure form of red than the blue was, and all this kind of carry on. I think scientifically it's a combination of navy and various different types of blue, isn't it? But anyway, yes, the old two-party UK political system. Is it a good thing that seems to be under threat? Maybe so. I don't know, but it's not ideal, the American system, is it? The Democrats and Republicans and pretty much nothing else, isn't it? Anyway, as always, a very warm welcome to fans of the Kildares, Rebecca Fishpond, Open Up an Emergency Exit, titans of the alternative rock scene since 1987, at various junctures in the chronological system the planet uses. Yes, the welcome to the UK's leading current affairs and politics program, with me, your host Dan Rowlands. The Celluloid History Life is a Mystery channel in direct competition with ITV News at 10, BBC News at 10, Channel 4 News, Channel 5 News, Unspun World with John Simpson, Al Jazeera News, Panorama, Question Time hosted by Fiona Bruce, BBC Daily Politics hosted predominantly by Vicky Young, and not forgetting UK TV Gold and Comedy Central. And in true ad hoc Celluloid History Life is a Mystery fashion, I've got no idea what on earth I'm going to talk about today. Is that joke getting too old? Anyway, so I saw Sunday with Laura Koonsberg on, funnily enough, on Sunday. The clue is in the title. And I've seen the Daily Politics today. And as I mentioned at the very start of the bulletin, I watched Harry Kane score 2 goals for England. That was last night. Wasn't it? Yes. Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg. You know, I mean, as you might not be surprised to hear, immigration was spoken about quite a lot. In actual fact, Mrs. Mahmood, the Home Secretary, Shabana, sorry, I forgot her first name for a sec there. Shabana Mahmood, the UK government's Home Secretary, was actually on the show with Laura Kuenssberg. And I mean, one of the things I was deliberating before the bulletin today was, shall I, deign to go to some sort of heavy areas of philosophical and philosophical cultural debate, or shall I keep it fair, relatively simple? I did forget to mention in the welcome, of course, that we like to, Celluloid History Live as a mystery channel, we do like to be, uphold our reputation as the current affairs and politics channel that boldly goes where other politics and current affairs channels fear to tread. Now, on that note, let me just dive in there with 2 feet then. Is Shabana Mahmood the Labour government's version of Mr. Yousaf from the Reform Party? What's Mr. Yousaf's first name? I've momentarily forgotten what his first name is. Is it Zahir Yousaf? Anyway, the question was, is Shabana Mahmood the UK government's equivalent of Zahir Yousaf? Sorry, I forgot. I think I might have got his name wrong there, but I'm still getting over this cold, to be honest. Mr. Yousaf's the equivalent of Mr. Yousaf from the Reform Party. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, in for a penny, in for a pound. Steve Baker from the Tories used a phrase a few weeks ago on the BBC Daily Politics, whereby he claimed that it's not very good English, that, is it? Anyway, basically, Steve Baker from the Tories a few weeks ago said that current politics is a case of communitarian nationalists versus cosmopolitan globalists. Now, to put that in layman's terms, if you like, basically what that theory is getting at is that we're in an era of identity politics. So, basically, the way I see it, the Reform Party is all about appeasing the white workers of Britain. So you could argue that it's quite a it's quite a good example of politicking in the higher echelons of the Reform Party to have an Asian man, Mr. Zahir Yousaf, as I think he's their leader of policy development, something like that, isn't he? Leader of Reform policy. Because then you can't be accused of, if anybody tries to throw, you're only representing the demographic of white working class people, then you can say, well, da-da. You can pull it, you can say, well, no, we're not. We've got an Asian, I presume Mr. Yousaf's of the Islamic faith. We've got an Asian Muslim gentleman as head of our reform policy. Now, as far as the Labour government is concerned, we've got a Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who is also an Asian lady. I don't know what her religion is or whether she's an atheist. I don't know. To be honest with you, to be fair to Zahir Yousaf, I'm not sure whether he's a practicing Muslim or whether he's an atheist, to be fair to the fella. Anyway, the point is, the Labour government are getting accused at the moment a lot of being like sort of, basically just aping reform, aren't they? In order to, try and stay in power, basically, to spit it out. And they're getting a lot of flack for their tactic, for having abandoned Labour roots, Labour core values, as they say. Now, I'm just going to pause there for a second. Now, yes. So, basically, this is the channel that doesn't like to sort of shirk issues. Now, to that end, where am I going now? I think a few weeks back I made the point that political problems and cultural issues, political problems are only going to be solved by what I described it as by recognizing the facts of science and etc. etc. Now, to that end, to develop that point, I should say, rather than to that end, it's I think another point I've also made in some of these videos is it does seem to be an anthropological or a fact of urban geography, if you like, that different races of Homo sapien tend to naturally voluntarily segregate. It's not always the case, but it seems to be a sort of phenomenon. Like, for example, I live in Manchester, and I think a Mancunian will probably tell you that the area of Wythenshawe to the south is predominantly white, working class area, and the area of Moss Side, where I live on the edge of Moss Side, is predominantly Afro-Caribbean, Somalian area. A working class area of Afro-Caribbean and Somalian. And another point about Manchester is, I made the point before, it's got quite a good track record regarding sort of, pride in the city itself, and issues of race not being too much of a problem. God bless Manchester, I think I said last time, and I'll say it again. Now, where am I going with this? I'm beginning to wonder, I'm beginning to wish I'd just stuck to, not gone down the road of identity politics, but never mind, too late now. In for a penny, in for a pound, the channel that boldly goes where where most channels fear to tread. Dun dun dun, etc. Oh, we're past 10-minute mark already, aren't we? Yeah? Time flies when you're having fun. Do I need to get some new phrases? Yeah, some cheeky buggers on it's like a hatch through to the, well, we're not that near the canteen, but there's some cheeky buggers, sort of earwig and sort of things, when it needs to, we're in competition with the big boys here, pesting and all that. We don't want hecklers from the staff. More front than Brighton. Oh. Anyway, sorry about that. We're actually a very genteel channel, don't worry. Yes. So yeah, we're not shirking issues here. So our is Shabana Mahmood, the Labour government's version of Zahir Yusuf. I think his first name's Zahir. I apologise if I got that wrong. The head of foreign policy here, and Shabana Mahmood is the Home Secretary. Now, to develop this point about identity politics, I think it's if you speak to political strategists or anthropologists or sociologists at Oxford University, they will probably concur with the view that the base of political power in the UK is basically white workers, the white working class. Now, Labour is currently going through an identity crisis, and it's kind of all over the shop, as you know. It's basically the evidence is all around us and spoken about on the news and current affairs programmes every day. Going through an identity crisis, and basically Farage, being a sort of opportunist politician, has sort of muscled in and Reform miles ahead in the polls with white working class Britons. So the reason I'm saying is Shabana Mahmood, the government's version of Zahir Yusuf from Reform, is she's a prominent Asian lady who's kind of the political theorists will probably put it like this. They would probably say that she's an Asian lady, but she's in the business of selling policies to the white working class. Traditionally, the Labour Party was the party of the white working class, but obviously cultural shifts and world wars, cultural shifts, and every current affairs and politics programme's favourite subject and every news bulletin's favourite subject, immigration. I've made culture and society very different than it was at the very inception of the Labour Party. When, if you like, the Labour Party was up and running, I think, certainly prior to World War I, in its early form sort of thing. And in those days, as you might imagine, there was a lot less Asian people and a lot less black people in Britain. There's been debate recently regarding the fact that, in actual fact, white people still very much make up the main majority of the British population, and yet the advertising industry has come under fire from, what was that bloke? Lady Sarah Poaching from Reform. Has come under fire for inaccurately portraying the British population to contain more Asian and black people than it actually does in reality. That's caused a bit of a debate, slight controversy, a bit of a debate lately in current affairs and politics, hasn't it? But anyway, sorry, I'm going a bit Ronnie Corbett on this issue of the ethnicity of the British population. But the point is, just to summarise, there's quite a significant percentage of Asian Britons now. There's quite a significant percentage of Black Britons now, and but the population of Britain is still predominantly white. That's the point. So and also a point that I've been sort of trying to outline is that in order to be a popular government and have a lot of political power, it's the white workers that you need on side in UK politics. Hence, it's hardly surprising that those are the people that get chased, for votes, and yes. Yeah, I've been on this point quite a long time now, haven't I? In the bulletin, getting on for 20 minutes. Hope enjoy your evening meals this fine Monday in November. It's getting quite chilly now, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a particular plan on what I was going to talk about this evening. I'm still getting over my cold slightly, but I didn't really want to shirk the issue of identity politics, which I've noticed that quite often kind of gets shirked in mainstream current affairs and political programs. There's various different things topics I could move on to regarding the future of centre-left politics, which I'll try and do in the last 10 minutes. Let me just have a consult my notes a second. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of trying to develop this. I concurred with. I've never voted Tory, as I've said on numerous occasions, but I find Steve Baker to be quite intelligent Tory worth listening to. I saw him again on telly. I forget what program it was. I don't think it was Koonsberg program on Sunday, but he was on. It might have been Newsnight the other night. But I find him to be quite an intelligent Tory, and as I say, it struck a chord with me. This kind of thing, this kind of the point about the future of politics being cosmopolitan, globalists versus communitarian nationalists. And as Steve Baker outlined, that he consider it's generally considered that communitarian nationalists are people who vote Reform and identify with the sense of being British. Now, how can I develop this without getting too bogged down not without giving myself too much of a headache, But sorry, sorry, a bit giddy there. I'm still getting over this cold slightly. I don't know why I said "but" then before, by the way. They drag on a bit, don't they? Some of these cold viruses. But yeah, I think it's. I'll try and outline some of the points. I know I've just got just under 10 minutes left. Now, isn't it quite an interesting point? This thing regarding, as I say, I want this channel, this Teleology History Life as a Mystery channel, to not be afraid of topics, scientific facts, empiricism, if you like, and the phrase communitarian nationalists, although I think, as I say, Steve Baker aligned it predominantly with, the type of people who are going to vote Reform. To be honest with you, I probably got more sympathy with the idea of communitarian nationalism than I have with cosmopolitan globalism, because I sort of view the idea of cosmopolitan globalism. I mean, it's a bit of a general term, isn't it? But I presume the idea of cosmopolitan globalism refers to concepts such as, everyone's equal in the whole world, and people should be, free to move across borders freely, like used to be the case until Brexit, really. As far as Europe was concerned, didn't it? There was quite a lot of freedom of movement and stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm against freedom of movement when I say that I probably identify more with communitarian nationalism. I mean, I'm all for travel, and I'm all for cooperation and harmony. However, I do think I sort of am of the belief that it's a bit. I always shy away slightly from that phrase. Charity begins at home. It sometimes can be a bit manipulated, that phrase, and it's a bit sort of, it's a slightly crass sounding phrase of the right, isn't it? But I think what I'm getting at here is I am of the belief that in terms of communitarian nationalism, what's really getting up people's noses at the moment, and why Reform are heading the polls, is it's this idea, I think, isn't it, that the white workers have got rights too. It's that idea, isn't it? I think that basically what's happening in politics and culture in the UK at the moment is that the upper class and the middle class have lost. I'm going to come out with. I've called out the political class for using too many football references in the past, but I'm going to do it myself, just for a bit of, because it's quite entertaining, I suppose. The upper class and the middle class in the UK have lost the dressing room, haven't they? They've lost the dressing room of the white working class, haven't they, basically, I think. I think basically what happened is Farage noticed that, didn't he? Nigel Farage noticed that. And he's way ahead in the polls, isn't he, now, as far as the electorate, the UK electorate goes. So the task for Labour, the Labour government, is to stop scoring own goals and hitting the bar and the post, and start start getting the working class on side, and just start scoring some top corner screamers, and start having a standing for something, having a backbone in midfield, You get the point. Yes. So that's the task ahead, I think, for UK. Well, it's quite a general way of putting it, isn't it? For UK politics, is just kind of get the UK workers back on side, isn't it? And sort of take politics as, I believe I concur with the view that Brexit was a bit of a sort of protest vote. Personally, I voted Remain, because I think as a general principle, unions are a good thing, and probably the wisest thing would have been reform of the EU from within. Because I think, weren't we the biggest financial contributor to the EU, apart from Germany, I think? So we could have tried to pressurise it from within. That's just my view. I think it was Cameron's view, actually, at the time, but who gets moaned at for calling the referendum in the first place. He didn't have much point, did he? Much choice, I mean, did he? But anyway, I digress. I think the Brexit was probably a sort of protest vote against the UK establishment. For purposes of this bulletin, we'll call that the middle class and the upper class. And to develop that, the fact that I think Brexit was a protest against the middle class and the upper class in the UK, I think that a lot of people have become disillusioned with UK politics, and that includes the centre, it includes the left. They use this term. There's a lot of moaning at the moment that the right wing there's a lot of propaganda coming from what's called the far right, which far right is becoming an overused phrase, isn't it? However, we've only got the language we've been blessed with. The English language we've been blessed with, 26 letters, haven't we? And the term liberal left gets bandied around a lot, doesn't it? Now ordinary people, it always sounds quite, these phrases, the phrase ordinary people sounds quite patronising, doesn't it? But I'm going to say, ordinary Brits anyway. We're stuck with the language, aren't we? So you could break into song or get the guitars out, can't you? But anyway, that's a different point, really, isn't it? But that's a digression. Anyway, I'll try and get to the point. I'm getting a bit Ronnie Corbett, I'm aware. The people have lost faith with the sort of what they call the political class, the media class, what they call the liberal left, which is just a term. It's just the political class. Let's just call it the political class, because they're sort of they're viewed as sort of banging on about. One way you could put it is sort of playing God, really. I think the general view is like, why are the liberal left worried about, the rest of the world, the sort of heady concepts like the rights of ethnic minorities, the rights that the equality among all Homo sapiens on the planet, equality among all sexualities, gender politics. These sorts of issues have become seen to be sort of irrelevant obsessions of a certain type of sort of educated upper and middle class person in the UK. And the average the average working person in the street is just more interested in having enough to go on a decent summer holiday and buy decent Christmas presents, etc. I mean, forgive me, in my experience, kind of all sort of political and cultural analysis tends to sound quite patronising, doesn't it? When really what you want to do is just, watch your favourite football team and have your tea and etc. However, it is what it is. And I hope I've made some sense there about my take on what have I talked about? I talked about Zahir Yusuf from Reform and his role within the Reform organisation, and I've talked about Shabana. So make sure I've got her name right. It is Shabana, isn't it? Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and her role in the government's administration in relation to the fact that, as Steve Baker has informed us, we're going through an era of, preoccupation with identity politics in the UK. And, I've ended by basically sort of expanding on the point that it's white workers that are the power base of the UK political system, because you need, if you get the white workers on side, that's where the political power lies, which is where the Labour government managed to get that demographic on side after the Second World War, for example, and they managed to get that demographic on side to an extent with Tony Blair as well. Or ultimately, that Tony Blair's governments got vote. Well, I was going to say it's a bit harsh to say they failed, but ended up getting voted out because Labour was seen to have lost its way, wasn't it? Until Labour was seen to have lost its way for the reasons I've just outlined, because it became seen to be sort of lost the working class, lost the white workers' mood, if you like, and as I say, I've come round full circle there, because that's currently what the Starmer administration is struggling with issue-wise, isn't it? The same issue, because Reform, I'm going to wrap it up soon. Reform have, Reform are reportedly wiping the floor in the polls, aren't they? Right, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to leave it fairly ad hoc in terms of when the next bulletin is going to be, but suffice to say, I hope everyone has a great Monday, start of the week. Wish everybody well, especially if you're getting over this awesome cold bug like I am. Look after yourselves. Remember, there is a light, of course, that never goes out. And don't dwell too much on the fact that there is a club, if you'd like to go, where you could meet somebody who really loves you. So you go and you stand on your own, you leave on your own, you go home and you cry, you want to die. Don't get too hung up on that sociological scenario. It's probably better to concentrate on the fact that there is a light and it never goes out, of course, isn't it? But yes, very happy Monday to everybody. Is it possible to say that couplet without launching into Rote for Luck. Obviously, well, it seems not on this channel, doesn't it? On the Celluloid History Life as a Mystery channel. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. Everyone take care. The channel will be back, no doubt, and look after yourselves. Have a good night. Have a good week. God bless. Till next time, look after yourselves. Good night.